Oh yeah, boys, we're playing Dragon's Dogma. I really wanted to make a video about this game. It's an adventure which I hadn't even thought of some time ago. And look at me, starting a new fantasy RPG right between some other games I had planned for this time of the year. But the circumstances couldn't be any better. The game is permanently on sale, I got it on GOG, and the sequel, Dragon's Dogma 2, is there on the horizon, with a trailer released recently and featuring staff making fans of the original title very hyped about their weird, forgotten, underrated favorite getting some love. So, join me on this quest to research what good has Dragon's Dogma 1 brought to the RPG table, and if we can experience a thrilling voyage through its world previously and completely undiscovered by me. Really, I have never heard about this game up until I saw some YouTube video essay about its original systems. So as I'm preparing this script, I know as much as the end of this episode and nothing more. So let's go! And I begin with the tutorial section. You know, basic stuff. But look at this poor boy, oh my god. So this is how we get introduced to the game, straight into the action. And this tutorial section makes us control the default character, which, as we will later see, is what we can choose in the character creation without changing anything. Not sure about the story implications yet, but we are thrown into the middle of some sort of an expedition. And here we can see a stone with which we can summon the pawns, which are the other main system in this game. And I really like this dramatic entrance, you know. Imagine you show up to the function like this and just go back the same way after. Well, anyway. I continue our expedition deep in the caverns and prison ruins to meet the first boss of the game. This is the other thing Dragon's Dogma and some subgenre of JRPGs and RPGs in general is well known of. The ones where with the party of adventurers you fight and best more and more unimaginably large bosses, with minor encounters serving as the obstacles on the way to the main course. I'm talking about the games such as Monster Hunter, God Eater, Shadow of the Colossus even, and so on. Dragon's Dogma doesn't seem to have the same strong emphasis on boss battles, as the whole journey seems like the challenge and the bosses are just the cherry on top, and not the main source of dopamine kick, at least at the point I reached in the game, but the similarities and inspiration are clearly visible. But more than later, as the boss foreshadowed before appears right in front of me to absolutely devour Ser Palotti. And what a monster it is. A lion in the front, a goat in the middle, and a snake in the rear. We fight it, apparently protected by the tutorial aura, not letting us get a hint about how tough meeting this bad boy will be later in the game. By the way, I haven't expected to be pleasantly surprised by the visuals from what I've seen while researching the game before I bought it. It seemed that the art direction is very safe, if it's the correct way to put it. It looks like your average fantasy RPG experience without any major detours from the well-known formula. And don't get me wrong, it's kinda just that. The standard color palette, semi-fantasy type realistic portrayal of the locations, but at the same time I already get a bit of personal touch to the armor design. I get immersed into the cave exploration by just how the warm light on the lantern uncovers the darkness before me. The magical particle effects also have this subtle touch of personality with how they flicker in the depth of the unlit corridor in a way I lack words to explain. In one sentence, I'm digging the slight personal touches to the familiar visual formula we all know. And so, as you can see, with a vague introduction and a bit of poetry, we get the first real cutscene of the game, which, as I remember correctly, appears right before or after the character creation. And I think it's a great moment to reference some opinions on the story I read on the internet before diving into this game. Apparently the main quest starts kinda weak to develop and get more and more interesting towards the end, so I'm expecting a slow burn of a story mostly carried in the beginning by the gameplay and the progress satisfaction. But frankly, kinda strong start with this cutscene here. I already get a massive fantasy anime feel from this. A grey dragon appearing from the skies, heading straight to the seemingly unimportant little coastal village where our protagonist lives. The right amount of magnitude and over-the-top visuals to set the proper mood, not to be taken too seriously until the dragon starts talking philosophy or something. And here we go. My character, who I somehow named Raiden by accident with the ready-made name system, a villager from the fishing settlement, gets to fight a great scaly monster with a crappy piece of steel resembling a sword. I utilize the mechanics introduced in the tutorial. I grapple the boss and make my way up its leg to reach its back or head, probably a weak spot, I think to myself. But just as I'm about to reach the high ground, the dragon shakes me off. And the dragon seems to use the dragon speech, the language which we don't know. And I can't help but wonder if they were referencing Skyrim at this point, with only certain humans being able to understand it. And my character gets impaled on the dragon's claw in a cinematic way, which it uses to extract Raiden's heart and consume it. And just like that, Raiden wakes up in a random hut in her village, devoid of her heart and any idea what the fuck just happened. And surprise, we can decipher the dragon language now. Through this rather painful initiation, Raiden becomes the titular Arisen, whatever it means for her now. And that's how the game introduces us to the class system, or rather vocations, which we can switch between or mix throughout the game. To be frank, I choose my first class, mostly based on how cool my character looks in the armor shown here. And yeah, I pick the warrior, the fighter one. And we proceed.
You say it left a glowing scar?
Yes, the wound has closed, and it seems the worst has passed, but her heart lies silent.
If you would face me. You are sure of this?
Yes.
Ill magic, the work of some curse. The whole world's already gone mad for fear of this dragon. Won't no good come of this? I must go see to the others, Kina. Tell me if aught changes here.
All right.
You should be abed. I wish you would not strain yourself so.
Oh yeah, physics objects. I decide to rob the fine people of this house of every valuable, including a broom, and I go for a stroll through the streets of Casardis. And not gonna lie, at this point I realize how much more sense would playing this with a controller make. Dragon's Dogma suffered the same unfortunate fate of console ports, resulting in a junky map navigation and button prompts ever present on the screen. You can also feel how unnaturally snappy the movement feels designed more for an analog stick than an 0-1 input of the keyboard. Anyway, I make my way to the end of this little jetty to get a better look at Casardis and to jump into the water. It turns out it's infested with flesh-eating snakes or something, so I run out as fast as I can.
There's talk of monsters emerging from the shallows all along the shore.
Ah, yeah, right.
Nasty things too. The brine, they call them.
The brine,
Many,
right.
and yet one, whatever that means.
Uh-huh,
Seems
got
this
that.
brine can be bested once more. Not to do, but avoid the water's edge.
Yeah. Wondering if I just witnessed an attempt at making it impossible to swim too far, I wander into the lifeless Casardis to have a look at the shop.
Up to your old mischief, Minnow.
I get called Minnow,
Take care, Minnow.
and decide it's maybe not the best time to do the shopping, as I have no idea what would I even want. Oh my god, you scared me. For a moment I thought we are in the Black Desert Online. The pawn distribution system gave us the most clueless men in the world. Hello there.
That man you are speaking with, he's of the Pawn Legion. They come from some unknown place, just appear without a warning. They're a strange lot. Not human, quite. They look the part, sure enough, but they lack the will, the spark, what drives us.
And that's how the game explains the way the pawn system and its flexibility are mixed into the gameplay. But no time for pondering the game mechanics. I encounter my first real fight in the game, the group of goblins. I absolutely confused the buttons, making Raiden whack her shield with the sword like a goddamn bass drum. After making a dumbass out of myself, I finally grasped the controls and beat the hell out of the goblin rascals, saving the merchant in the process.
That was far too close.
I scavenge the beach for some supplies and notice Rook having a major conflict with every wooden container he notices. Including explosive barrels.
We've arrived, Master.
And we enter the encampment, where apparently our friend Rook knows the way,
I know the way, Master. Follow me.
and leads us to the familiar summoning stone.
Well met, Arisen. Can you hear our voice? We speak to you from across great distance. The Pawn Legion has awaited you. If you would claim to be among the Arisen, prove the strength of your resolve.
The stone gives us a quest, and we are off. Oh fuck, and the Cyclops is here. The first real boss battle, and I remember losing it, so a first sign that the game is taking its gameplay seriously, even at the point where I wasn't even responsible for choosing a path. And just you wait for when it will be. No footage of the battle unfortunately here, so let's skip. At this point, I decided to take a little detour.
Just to think of it.
I returned to Casardis and tried to find some side quests, maybe to explore a bit and to make my character a little bit stronger for what was coming. And here was Raiden's mumbling cousin, who was afraid of this well just behind him. A perfect opportunity for a little adventure and to prove him wrong, don't you think?
Find out what? What? You mean to go down there? Here, if you're set on going, take this with you. I'll not soon forget your bravery, cousin.
We receive a lantern and go down the ladder. Once again, I'm pleasantly surprised with how the lighting works here. Dark is really dark, and the warm glow cascading around the cavern walls feels that much more safe and cozy. A perfect blend to immerse us into the Little Well Expedition. Speaking of which, it gets immediately interrupted by the group of chunky rat boys. Apparently a lot to handle by my crew. I move on, fight some cave bats, and don't expect this one to be much of a challenge. Boy, was I wrong. Goodbye, Hutter. And we jump down towards the slippery depths of this waterfall cave and find the lizard people living there. Thinking I'm ready, I charge and slice away at the reptile foe. I get my lantern extinguished and my crew absolutely destroyed. Not gonna lie though, this fight is kinda cinematic. Just look at those streams falling down the ceiling and this magic light casting shadows. Imagine this in a tabletop RPG setting and the MG describing all of this. The cat tails of reptile people flying around. Well, but you know, the joy doesn't last too long. We get absolutely destroyed here and I decide to abandon our well quest. But we are not done with our detour yet. I decide to take another path up this trail here. Avoid the big rock, Indiana Jones style, no footage unfortunately. And we fight this group of bandits on top of a hill. A perfect opportunity to talk a bit about my impressions on combat. I approached Dragon's Dogma with a notion that it's a bit Souls-like. I have close to no experience with Souls games, never been a fan and didn't look for this experience here. It was just something I thought was true about this game. It isn't really, it lacks the weight of Souls game, but the majority of your decisions during combat encounters seems to matter, as it's easy to die here, as I'm about to show you. Don't get me wrong though, the combat feels good, and it's very satisfying to finally succeed in an encounter which you lost before. So I absolutely murder the guy, get shackles, and proceed. Continuing my stroll, I fight another band of bandits. We get destroyed once more, and once again. And finally decide to go back to the main path to continue the main objective.
Care to find out where this path leads?
Not really, Deandra. Let's look for something more chill, eh? Oh, we arrive at the rendezvous point and meet Mercedes. She tasks us with escorting the convoy to the capital, Grand Soren. I bet you know those quests in games where you have to accompany an NPC and they walk a bit too slow to run alongside them, but also a little bit too fast to choose walking instead, so you are forced to walk a bit and then catch up sprinting. The convoy we are escorting here is a slow one. We wait for it every now and then between the next waves of enemies trying to make our life harder. I kinda like that accidentally postponed this quest to the nighttime. It's really moody and monsters appear at the edge of Lantern's glow charging at us. We make our way through a lot of walking and flying enemies and arrive in Grand Soren with the daybreak, a cinematic moment for sure.
Shall we enter, Arisen?
We've arrived. Well done, men.
I'll make for the castle directly to offer my report to His Grace. I'll have word sent for you, friend. Pray, sojourn in the capital a while. To the castle, men! Step lively!
And this is so funny. I really don't know why this character gets introduced like that. It's like he's skimming something. He knows some stuff which we don't. This man will literally tell me that I can talk to more pawns in the city. Why does he seem like a major scoundrel, knowing our whole fate and so on? Oh well, anyway. Those unanswered dilemmas haunt me for a bit as I decide to gear up and make Raiden look like a proper sword for hire with a barbarian twist. As I said before, I enjoy the armor design a lot. It looks robust, believable and protective, and yet it leaves some opportunities for this anime fantasy flavor to poke through. Here it was actually accidental, as there were no clothing pieces to put under the armor available to buy, so Raiden sports a bit of a fashion statement. But it makes the whole set look like put together from some scavenged stuff and makes me intuitively notice a lot of space for potential improvements, even though I'm not even sure how the whole system works yet. I enter the tavern and learn that it serves as a place to train new skills and teach my personal pawn different behavior on the battlefield. It gets its own little scenes even, with us discussing those matters face to face by the table. I haven't figured out how much impact do those things have really, but it seems intriguing to say the least.
From now on.
What? Do you need something?
I finished my Grand Soren tomfoolery session by using the rooftops conveniently located next to the city walls to practice some parkour moves. I didn't even expect it to work too well, but look at her go. Running around, jumping, climbing and maintaining some sort of momentum was surprisingly satisfying, and what was even more interesting, I was rewarded for those shenanigans by finding some chests hidden between the buildings.
A journal page, perhaps?
My pawns get completely lost and don't have any idea what I'm doing. So, I'm approaching this game without any expectations and with no idea what trick will it play next, and I'm totally having a blast now. I'm pushing this episode a bit earlier than I expected because of some other video I have plans for, but I'm certainly going to continue the adventures of Raiden and her band in seeing what Dragon's Dogma has to offer and if I'm gonna be interested in the coming sequel. In the meantime, have a good holiday season guys and see you in the next one. Bye!